You know the old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression? That phrase is incredibly true in our business. In entertainment, your first impression can mean everything. It can mean the difference of booking a job or not booking a job, having an audition or not having an audition. That first impression can get you in the door and make things happen. And for an actor, that first impression is the headshot. First and foremost, casting directors, producers, they're going to see your headshot and they're going to make decisions about whether or not you get seen based on that one image. So it's incredibly important to make that image an investment in your future. And to do that, you want to find the right photographer, someone who's going to work with you to craft the perfect image, the perfect first impression. And I suggest you check out portraitsbypeggy.com. Peggy's been doing photography since the 80s, and she really knows her stuff. And she wants to work with you to craft the perfect captured image, the one that captures the uniqueness of you and helps you book the job. She wants to work with you. She wants to really get into who you are, what sort of jobs you're trying to book, and help you get the perfect image. So check out portraitsbypeggy.com and book your portfolio session today. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 192nd episode of the Intellectual Podcast. I'm your host, Dave Dawson, and I'd like to thank you so much for joining us once again on the program. It's our pleasure to bring you all of the content on the Intellectual Podcast for free. We ask one very small, simple question of you. Will you please subscribe? It's a simple thing to do. If you're listening to us on iTunes or on Google Play Music, all you gotta do is hit the subscribe button to the podcast, and those apps will just download the episodes straight to your phone whenever we upload a new show. So it makes it easy for you to listen, and it gives us the benefit of a bit more visibility on those platforms. You can also subscribe on iHeartRadio if you're an iHeartRadio listener. So thank you again for joining us. I hope you subscribe, and if you so feel inclined, drop us a message. Let us know what you think of the show. We always welcome reviews and comments. A lot of us here in San Diego spent the weekend doing the 48-hour film project. Team Intellectual Entertainment made a kick-ass film. I'm really excited for everybody to see it. It'll be screening on June 6th as part of the Group D screenings of the San Diego 48-hour film project. Be sure to check out the 48hourfilm.com website to find links to buy your tickets, and join us at, I believe it's AMC Mission Valley this year for the screening. Group D is, I believe, June 6th at 9:30, but don't quote me on that. Be sure to check it out. Go online. And if you haven't checked out the Facebook page for the 48, be sure to do a Facebook search for San Diego 48-hour film project and check out all of the cool stuff that's going on. People are posting all sorts of stuff, photos and stuff from the weekend, and it's just a cool time and a fun thing to do. And now we're going to move into the episode with Steve Saunders and his band Skaliticians. We talk about his kind of political ska music and all of the cool things that he's doing with that, including a production for this year's San Diego Fringe Festival. And you can, of course, get tickets to see Skaliticians and everything else that we're reviewing on the shows right now that are related to the San Diego Fringe Festival at sdfringe.org/tickets. And so here he is. I'm a little under the weather, so I'm sorry that this intro is a little low key. But here he is, Steve Saunders of Skaliticians, on the 192nd episode of the Intellectual Podcast.
Talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. The Intellectual Podcast starts now.
We're doing We the People, which is also a political base.
Nice.
So.
All right, I'll have to check that out.
Okay.
All right.
You are in the driver's seat, sir, so whenever you're ready.
Just start whenever?
Yep.
been raging, the wars have been waging for thousands of generations. We're hooked on hatred, pleasured by pain, addicted to aggression. A cycle of struggle, perpetuated strife. This is our humanity. War is a way of life. The earth is on fire. Burn the villages with gassy napalm. Destroy all the cities. Kill everyone with your nuclear bomb. The earth is on fire. Politicians keep pushing us to war. They dole out the weapons and use missiles to control us all. Pick it up. Hey, 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 hey. Hear the bells toll. The battle for your soul will not be fought in the fields. The fight for your mind will not be kind. It's waged with whispers and words. Messages are mixed, peppered with persuasion, persistently delivered until you are convinced. Your mind is on fire, melted by media, destroyed by the demons who scare us into endless war. Your mind is on fire, a slowly decaying disease. We must break the cycle and build a new era of peace.
All right, folks, today we are here with Steve Sanders. He has a new show for the San Diego Fringe. It's called The Politics of Ska, and that was the song Burn the Earth from that show. How are you doing today, Steve?
I'm doing great. Whitney, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. So, all right, tell us a little bit about your show.
If you want to sit while we talk, Steve, you can. Just use the orange mic to talk into. Just tilt that up at you.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah, cool.
Well, things are going great. I was very happy to be part of the San Diego Fringe Festival this year. I know there's a lot of exciting performances, and it's always exciting to be connected with so many other theater people and putting on such great shows. And I know it's really good for the community too. So I'm really excited to be part of it this year.
Awesome. And what's your show about? Obviously, there's music involved.
There is. I've been writing songs, since I was a kid, and these songs I played in a band in Minnesota called Skaliticians, and they were all politically minded songs. And then I got that band going out here, and when I heard the results of last year's election, I, like many people,
What results? What are you talking about? Was I sleeping?
I think it was on the back page of the paper back in November. And people don't talk much about it anymore, but what I wanted to do is take these politically minded songs and write them into a story based on a politician who is running for office, has a lot of optimism at the start, and then gets corrupted by accepting money from big donors, doing some ads and some, being a spokesperson for a pharmaceutical company, and then gets really frustrated at that because he's losing the message. Then he ultimately fires his campaign manager and loses the election, but at the end calls for a plea of unity. And what I really wanted to do is make sure there is that unity aspect of it, because I really do think it is what our political landscape needs right now.
So a fictional story for sure.
It is. I don't know how we're going to get together, but I've been talking about this story with a friend that I went to high school with, and he has a blog called Strongly Worded, and I think he's really, really smart. And when I started sharing these ideas with him, he said, yes, this is great. The music is good, but what are you doing to build consensus? And I really did take that to heart. And the one thing I did was I created the fictional party of being the ska party and saying, we're different than the country music party, and we're different than the folk party. And it's the party of unity, and what we want to do is use this music to dance and celebrate and be happy and have fun together and have a good time.
Oh, I like that. That's nice. That's very nice. It's funny, as you're talking about the politician and as he gets corrupted, my mom has a friend who's a politician. I will not name what his name is, but we were having a conversation one time, and my mom was asking him very pointedly, what goes on, what is there corruption? And he looked at her and he said, I'm going to be really honest with you. There are two types of politicians, those who are corrupted and those who will be corrupted. Because in order to get things done, you have to play the game. And part of that is this dance, this negotiation, these backdoor deals and stuff. So I think I will enjoy your play very much.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, and I did write a specific part about that where the character named Mr. P, the character that I play, it does feel conflicted, but agrees with this big donor that represents, things like the pharmaceutical industry, the lobby or the chemical lobby, and says, yes, well, I guess I could get my message on the national stage with the money you're giving me, and ultimately decides that it's really not for him and wants to go on his own, but loses the election because, let's face it, without big money, it's really, really challenging to get your voice out there. You'll get lost in the noise.
Altruism versus, actually getting somewhere in politics. Rough. It seems like a lot of the Fringe shows this year have a political bend. Have you been reading about some of the other shows that are going to be involved?
I have a little bit, and it is nice to see that there are people that are really using this opportunity to speak their mind and speak their voice and use these messages to bring it to the people.
Yeah, I think it should be an interesting Fringe this year. A lot of thoughtful discussion hopefully will come from it. Our show that we're doing, We the People, is also a politically based show. So
sure. Can you tell me about that for a minute?
Oh, yeah, sure. Absolutely. So for ours, we interviewed a series of people from all over the political spectrum, all over the religious, ethnic, and
they didn't interview me.
Life spectrum. And
I feel left out.
we maybe still could.
That'll be the sequel.
Exactly. We might expand it. You never know. But so we did these interviews just talking about, politics, how politics play a role in their life, and what it is to be an American and how you feel about America right now. So a lot of different stories came out of that, and we're hoping that a lot of discussion comes out of that, because in the end, whether you're right, left, in between, we all are a community. And there's a lot of strife happening right now. And the only way we're going to get past that is to recognize that we all want what's best for our country. Nobody's going to throw a vote in that's going to hurt their country, their home, their neighbors. We just disagree on what the right thing is. So finding those places where we can agree. And I think that's the hope that we're trying to get across with our show is let's start discussions. Why do we feel this way? Why why
there's a fundamental disagreement on what's harmful to people too.
Yeah, exactly. But honestly, there's this really, this is silly, and a ad out for Heineken, but have you guys seen the new Heineken commercials where they have...
It's really good.
Yeah, it's so good. They have two people get together.
So much better than the Pepsi ad.
Yeah. And that was kind of our thought, the idea that when it comes down to it, there's a lot more we have in common than what we have differences. So
that is true. And I think you're right. I think if these shows convey that message to the audience that there is a way that we can open our eyes a little bit and accept one another, and if we view those people through the lens of unity, I think that we can try to at least find one solution that can be good for all of us, because there will always be disagreement. But it's just a question of what do we do after that disagreement? Do we continue to hate each other and not talk to each other and post horrible things on Facebook? Or do we find a way to move forward in these slow, small steps?
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Facebook. I think we're in a completely new territory, politics-wise, not just in our country, but I think globally, in that we used to be very secluded in our viewpoints on things. It's I feel the way I feel, and that's just the way it is. But now I feel the way I feel, and God damn it, I'm going to make sure you hear it. And everybody's going to hear it, and 500 people are going to hear it. Whereas before, maybe your family knew your viewpoint, nobody else did. And it was kind of impolite to get too political in your discussions, in mixed company and stuff. And that's all gone now. It's I think we're all navigating new waters here.
I feel like some of the older generation still holds to that. There was definitely
because they're not on Facebook as much as the younger generation.
Well, at our Thanksgiving, a couple of my cousins decided to wear very political shirts, and the elders of our family were like, "That's thoroughly inappropriate. This is a family gathering. Plus, those are ugly shirts."
Yeah, that's true. But it is. I mean, Facebook, it is an interesting platform because if you view the idea of Facebook where you're really just kind of like shouting at people to anyone who might listen, it's the equivalent of just walking in a room full of 100 people and saying, "I'm angry at the government." You're not really talking to anybody. You're just expressing a view.
You're the
these
digital equivalent of the guy on the corner with a Bible in his hand.
Exactly. That's what it is. And, there is dialogue that can happen there, but you're right. It is typically one-sided. It's people with agreeing with each other and saying, "Oh, I agree. Those people are all idiots." And people aren't idiots. You just have a different point of view.
Oh no, people are idiots.
Some, not us three though.
Not at this
we're
table.
right.
We're on the intellectual talk show, therefore we are intellectuals.
That's true.
With
That's
an
true.
X.
Who can't spell.
That's true. And one of the lines at the end of this play is it says, you could have talked about my policies, but instead you decided to destroy me as a person. We could have been talking about the similarities between country music and ska music and how we all share a common musical heritage. But that's not what the press wants to talk about. It's this division that causes the conflict and prevents us from achieving things.
I like that.
So, Skaliticians. You say that you had this name in your band like originally when you were in college?
Well, it wasn't quite college yet, but it was about 10 years ago. A guy named Jose Valencia and he was from Mexico, and we were living in Minnesota. We had been in a band called Sayani that was not really political music at all, but it was a mix of Spanish. It was Spanish rock and ska. And he and I split off from that band to form Skaliticians. And I think it was the first idea I've ever had where when we talked about, hey, how about the name Skaliticians? Because it's like ska with politicians. And we Googled it and it said, there are 0 pages that match your request. So, we held on to the name, and the band did pretty well. We opened up for a band called Panteon Rococo. I don't know if you guys know who that is. They're from Mexico, and we opened up for them when they were touring on their North American tour. And that band split up, but when I kind of kept it alive when I came out here, met a couple of musicians and performed a couple of times last year, but I wanted to put it together in the form of a one-man show and tell a story. Because I feel like some of these songs are timeless. In fact, some of them I wrote when I was in college in the early 90s. And one of them is called Sliding Glass Door. And it's about kind of what we were talking about before with just closing your eyes and not looking at the outside world and shutting that sliding glass door and closing yourself off from other people and other ideas. And I still feel that is true today. That is what people do. And the song that's called The Politics of Ska, I wrote before Obama got elected. And one of the lines is the politicians want to build a wall so high so that the immigrants will never climb. Don't even bother. The politicians have already built that wall inside your mind. And here we are 8 years later, and we're still talking about the wall. And so I just feel like we can take these political ideas, put it in the form of a story that people can identify with. And, I know something like this, like ska music is never going to win an election. It's kind of an obscure kind of music. But the call for unity that ska music traditionally has had since its roots in Jamaica in the 50s and even in England in the 70s and 80s when they had the second wave, it was always about pulling people together through the music and celebrating and dancing and having fun on a Saturday night, no matter what you believed or who you worshipped or who you wanted to vote for, just building that unity in that community.
That's more history on ska than I think I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. And I remember when I was 9 years old and I was able to stay up late and watch Saturday Night Live with my sister, Leanne, and the Specials performed on Saturday Night Live. They're a classic ska band. And I just couldn't believe how much energy they had. They were jumping all over the place. It was fun. It was wild. And it definitely caught my attention. And the more I've dug into it through the years and learned about these classic guys like Desmond Decker and even how, reggae and ska have this common heritage and how it spread throughout the world. And Mexican ska was big, and we were really the first Mexican ska band in Minnesota when we started Seani, and continued that with Skaliticians, and now it's everywhere. There's ska bands in Italy and Tokyo and all over the world. It's a genre that really seems to connect with people because of the energy, because of the politically minded, social conscious lyrics, and the fun that you can have, and just kind of dancing and letting loose for a ska show.
So now, were you a ska fan before you were a musician?
Yes.
And when did you start becoming a musician? How old were you?
I was in a band in high school, but by then I knew of bands like Fishbone. They were like ska fusion, I guess you would say, and the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones. Even before some of their really big hits came out, we had heard of their first couple albums and some of their EPs just because of we knew the ska scene, and bands like the Toasters. And I never really started a ska band until maybe 15 years ago or so. I was always in rock bands or alternative rock bands and folk or whatever I really wanted to play. And then when I had a chance to join the Mexican ska band, I said, why didn't I think of ever starting a ska band? And we had a lot of fun with it. It was, I met those guys. I'm still friends with them. And we wrote some cool songs. And I feel like we tried to stick with the message of being socially conscious, speaking out against things like the pharmaceutical industry, speaking out against war and the military-industrial complex. And I really believe those things. So I really just kind of want to put that into the music.
Wow. So you've run the gamut with styles whenever it comes to being a musician.
I have. On a side note, I'm also playing the family Fringe because I have a music project called Snapdragon Seeds. It's educational music for kids.
Aww.
I've released a couple albums that are, for the kids, not political music, but, how to tie your shoe, how to, proper sentence structure, how to use words like past tense. Like, we don't say sleeped, we say slept. We don't say creeped, we say crept. Like that kind of thing, just lessons for kids. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so I like it. So I'm very happy that the San Diego Fringe has that opportunity because I really haven't done anything with that project. I mean, I used to do 50 or 60 shows a year in Minnesota for the Snapdragon Seeds music project. And when I had the opportunity to do the Family Fringe through the San Diego Fringe Festival, I jumped at it because I think that's going to be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I like teaching through music.
It's an effective tool.
I worked a show when I was going to college in Waco. Trout Fishing in America came through town, and I got to work at one of their shows, and it was just a lot of fun. So much fun. It's a little 2-person band.
Oh, that's really cool.
One guy on a giant upright bass.
Nice.
The other guy on a guitar, and they created so much sound and taught such wonderful things to the kids, and the kids just ate it up.
Oh, that's really neat.
Loved it.
For Earth Day, I saw there was a little kids eco band, and they were all songs about, not throwing garbage because it gets in the ocean and turn off the lights. It was very cute. But you said you did a lot of stuff with the kid band whenever you were in Minnesota. What brought you out to California?
Have you ever been to Minnesota in the winter? It's brutal. It's brutal. And so I grew up in Milwaukee and spent most of my life in Milwaukee. And then my wife and I moved to Minnesota. And we were only supposed to be there for 2 years because she was going to graduate school. And then 12 years later, we said, what are we still doing here? And we had 2 little kids. And we said,
it's one of those weird things, right? People are always like, oh, I'm just going to go there for a couple years. And then they end up there for a decade. And they look around and go, what the hell happened?
Exactly. Time moves way too fast. And we loved it. Minnesota's a great place. We lived in the city of St. Paul. We could walk downtown. It was really, really fun. But the weather is very unbearable. And we knew San Diego had the best weather in the country. And we got lucky. My wife and I both were lucky enough to get jobs. And then now our kids are in school. And our daughter, who's going to be turning 6 at the end of the month, she barely remembers Minnesota. We ask her, like, do you remember playing in the snow? She kind of racks her brain and says, I don't think so. So she's, they're really growing up as California kids, and we feel lucky about that because it's such a great place. And the music community here is so welcoming. When I first moved here, I met Catherine Beeks, and she has a music group that she works with, and everybody was so welcoming, and she set me up with open mics, and there are these songwriting games that she does. and everybody was so nice. And I didn't really experience that much in Minnesota. The friends I made just being in bands, but the community is not as tight knit as it is here. So I have felt very, very positive and happy to be part of San Diego.
I have to step out. You guys go ahead and keep talking. I'll be back.
All right. Excellent. Well, I guess while David steps out, can we hear another song?
Sure. Maybe what I'll do is I'll play the song "The Politics of Ska."
Okay, great.
Kind of like the title track. So, and if you go to my website, Skaliticians.com, you can hear the full recording with horns, and we recorded it at XYZ Audio.
Wouldn't be ska without horns, right?
Exactly. Yeah, that makes a big difference. So,
all right.
Okay, so this one kind of goes like this. Politicians sell dreams, and that's what I'm going to sell to the American people, because democracy is for the people. We have the power. We make the difference. We can do it because we are Skaliticians. Vote Ska! Politics, it's the ultimate reality TV show. The characters are all the same and the plot is moving really slow. Politicians climb the ladder to feed their own ambition. Anyone can run for office, but only the wealthy can afford to win. Corporations fund the politicians' wartime chest. They're preaching all their promises and spending more than all the rest. Money flows like energy from a socket. The corporations have the politicians in their pocket. Oh yeah! Yeah! Zap-a-da-ba-da-ba, zap-a-da-ba-da-ba, zap-a-da-ba-da-ba. Yeah, da-da-ba-ba-ba. Politicians, say whatever it is you want to hear. They'll prey upon your hopes and dreams and then exploit your fears. Politicians and corporations are crooked just like we suspected. The only goal of a politician is to get re-elected. Politicians say they're gonna get tough on immigration. They would have you think the USA's a white man's nation. Gonna build a wall so high so that the immigrants will never climb. Don't even bother, the politicians have already built that wall inside your mind. Inside your mind. Inside your mind. Inside your mind. You wanna vote in the election, but afraid your vote won't count. Special interests scream the loudest, drown the people's voices out. The corporations command it, but we can take the power back if we just get together and demand it. Searching for a solution, we the people rally in a revolution. Politics of Ska, politics of Ska. Cast your vote for the politics of Ska. Politics of Ska, politics of Ska. Cast your vote for the politics of Ska. Politics of Ska, politics of Ska. Cast your vote for the politics of Ska. Vote Ska!
All right.
Awesome, thank you.
So, as you were playing, a couple of questions came to mind. What comes first whenever you're writing? What's your process? Do you come up with lyrics? Is it scraps of lyrics? Do you hear a melody line? How do you build your songs?
The interesting thing is when I first started writing music, I guess I didn't know how to play guitar until I made it to college. So I've always been, I guess, a poet. And that's been maybe my strongest talent because I've written a lot of words. A lot of the music I write, I think it sounds great, but it typically has always started with the words. But once I started playing guitar, I would come up with the basic structure of the song, and then I would start to hear what the words could be about, or a couple of words popped into my mind, and I thought, oh, that might be an idea. And so I've kept doing it that way. So it's been a little bit of both. What's been really, really fun is now that I have hundreds of poems to choose from, every time I write some new music, I look back through my archive of songs and I say, hey, this song, these words might sound better to this new music that I just wrote. And then I try to mash it together. And I had to do that for this play because there were, I think, 3 or 4 of these songs that I had co-written with other people and other band members that I had played with. And what I wanted to do was make it 100% my own. Mm-hmm. And so, for example, that first song that I played, Burn the Earth, originally that song was called En el Bar, which just to show you how bad my Spanish speaking skills are, because I wrote that music and my friend Christian wrote the words. And I said, what's that called? And he said, En el Bar. I said, oh, what does that mean? And he said, in the bar. Yeah. I said, oh yeah, now I hear it. I thought it was one word that meant something else. And so anyway, and so then when Sayani broke up and we started Skaliticians, I took that same music and I said, hey, Nicholas, you're the new singer of this band. Why don't you write words to this song? And so he wrote a song called Ángel Caído, which means fallen angel, I found out. And it was a great song. We loved it. And I had written a song called Burn the Earth, but never had any music for it, and then mashed the two together for this show. So that's been really fun, is taking some of the songs that, sounded great and still sound great the way we used to play them, but I like the fresh approach that I did with this project. So it's creatively, this has been a great couple of months because I've really gotten to explore and change and think of things in a new way.
It sounds like keeping journals is a good friend for you.
It is, because I remember we have a song called Kings, Bullets, Atoms, and Peace, or we call it KBAP for short. And when my friend suggested some music, he had said, check out this music. And it was just this killer bass line. And the drummer just kicked right in and had this super fast beat. The horns were going nuts. And I was playing guitar. And we were a couple of minutes into it. And all of a sudden I went, oh my God. And people were like, what? What is it? And I said, no, keep playing. And I shuffled through and I knew I thought of these words and I grabbed it. And I just started going, there's no fruit in my tomb. Oil coagulates once it is consumed. And 5 minutes later, after we finished the 7 verses of that song, everybody was going, oh my God. Oh. And we knew we had just this killer song. And it was. I mean, the first time we played it live, everybody went crazy. And it was the song that we had to play last because we were all so tired by the end of it because it was super intense. So I really like those words, and I put it into some new music that gives it a slightly different vibe, but just as much of an intensity. And it's one of the last songs. And it's not about nuclear war. It's about wanting to kill people that push an agenda for nuclear war. So it's still very politically minded and very, very focused. A message for peace in a slightly violent way.
As an artist who puts politics so far forward, do you find in performances, do you find opposition to what you're conveying very often, or generally are audiences on board with you when you're?
I'd say typically audiences have mostly been on board. I haven't been to a show where people have come up to me and said, hey man, I work for the pharmaceutical lobby and I don't like what you said, or there hasn't been anything like any kind of disagreements. But it's interesting because I'm inviting some of my coworkers to this show, and I'm really kind of taking a risk because I don't know what they believe. And I've said it's really weird. It's very politically oriented. I have been trying to be conscious of my own beliefs in what I'm saying, and I have found a couple of ways to balance it out. So I'm not only picking on one side. I did find a couple of ways to make fun of my my home team, I guess you could say. And so I don't want to alienate anybody. I really don't want to use this story to just get my point of view across. I also want to try to find ways to show, yes, this is what I believe, but we can pull it together. And you can disagree with me. That doesn't mean you have to storm out of the audience. You know what I found actually really funny? During the Snapdragon Seeds concerts, there was one time I was way out in rural Minnesota, and it does get very, very conservative out in some of those areas. I was talking in front of a library, and there must have been 50 or 60 people in the audience, and I was talking about how great science was. And a mom went, "Oh, we're leaving." And she picked up her kids and walked out of the door. And I said, "Oh, I guess she doesn't believe in science." And I felt bad because, you know, I was right about to play my Tie the Shoe song. I know. That's yeah, I agree.
It's about the search for facts.
Have you guys watched the new Bill Nye show? Because he goes on absolute rants about, you can't believe in science. It's just a fact, guys. Facts. No belief, just facts. If you want to see Bill Nye rant for a good hour.
He's been on a tirade lately.
Oh.
He has.
Yeah. I love Bill Nye, but I find it very hard to watch that show because it is just an all-out rant. Kind of funny, kind of not.
Funny but sad.
Yeah.
It's sad that we have to be talking to people about this. I totally agree. And people can believe whatever God they want to believe. And I even say right in the beginning of the show, you know, when I'm addressing everybody in the audience, I say friends, enemies, you know, the jerks in the front who won't shut up, and all the losers in the back who have a real idea but are too scared to speak up, and gods. All of our gods. We all need to talk together and come together on these issues. So I don't care what people want to believe in. You can believe in all gods or no gods or one God or whoever, but you can't let your beliefs legislate for the rest of us.
Ooh, that's a great soundbite.
Nice.
I like that.
That's what Neil deGrasse Tyson says.
Yeah.
Believe what you want to believe, but you know, don't legislate from those beliefs.
Nice. So, you know, Steve, we've been talking a lot about your show and about your creative life and everything. What other hobbies, jobs, life events? What is you? We want to hear about more of you as well.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you for that question. I'm really lucky because I get to play with Legos almost every day because my son is 7. He's totally into Legos. And my daughter is almost 6, and she's getting into playing basketball, so I get to play basketball with her. They draw chalk all over the driveway and the backyard, and so I get to play a lot. And so I feel like I'm in a real sweet spot in my life. They're also taking piano lessons, and I get to go with them. And I'm trying to learn piano because I never really learned it, and so I'm trying to learn dink around on the keyboard a little bit. And it's helped with some of the music recording that I do. I can kind of bang in my own bass lines when I record and things like that. I do have a day job. I work as a professional fundraiser.
That's a cool job.
For a university here in San Diego. And yeah, I do. I love it. It's great. And people say, "Oh, I could never ask people for money," but so many of our donors just step forward and say, "How do I support the university?" And then I say, "Well,
the benefit of being a fundraiser for a university."
It is. I've worked in fundraising.
You want a challenge? Come help me make some money for making a movie.
Oh, yeah, exactly. No, and one of my really good friends, Julie, she raises money. She is the executive director for an organization that raises money for students in Burundi, in Africa, and that's tough. And she does a good job with that. Alumni want to give. So
yeah.
I started fundraising in higher ed, and then I kind of jumped around into youth education. I worked for Girl Scouts for a while, and I worked for a science center in Minnesota. But yeah, being back in higher education is great. It's a lot of fun. So I feel lucky that I have that kind of a day job that affords me to be able to print up postcards and promote a show and things like that.
Well, I mean, so David brought up, funding of artistic endeavors. Have you found that your skill set from your day job has been helpful to promoting the show?
I know how to market. I should be better at it. I should actually. That's why I wanted to come.
It's always easier to do it for someone else.
It is. Yeah. Especially when I'm, getting paid a pretty comfortable salary to do it for my job. I can market the university to the alumni. That's easy. But that's why I wanted to come and do this show, because I said, this is great. Here are people that are already tapped into the community, and this sounds like the great opportunity where I want to come and help promote the show. And
well, we're glad you've come to promote your show, because that's what we do here. All about the community, and it's just awesome that I'm so excited for Fringe this year. Like, just seeing all of the things, the creative endeavors that have come out of this community, it's going to be quite a trip. You said that you've done Fringe before, though, not here in Minnesota.
Yes.
What was that experience? How has it differed from this experience? And what was the show you did there? Because was it the same as this?
No, it wasn't. It was different. It was the Minnesota Fringe Festival, and I think it was 10 years ago. It was 2007, and I had a friend that I think he volunteered with the Fringe or he was on the board, and he said, "Hey, you're creative. You should do a show for the Fringe Festival." And I said, "Oh yeah, I think when I was in college, I wrote a play. I'll put my name in." And then when my number got selected, I said, "Okay, well now I got to go find that script that I wrote." And I dug around all my computer files, and I found a 1-page outline that said, Scene 1, and then one sentence for what happened. Scene 2, another sentence of what happened. And so really, I didn't have a script. I had a 1-page outline of the story and pulled it together. Asked my friends. So my wife played the lead character, and it was 6 of my other friends. And I was sort of like one of the characters, but also a narrator. And it was a story about a group of amphibians that lived in a pond that was drying up. And there was a debate in the pond. If we stay here, we're going to die. We need to leave. And then the other side said, no, this is where we live. This is the way things are supposed to be. We have to stay. So one of the characters crawled out of the swamp, didn't really have any limbs to crawl to safety. And one of the characters died on the beach. Another character was slowly withering away, and through these hallucinations of near death, interacted with other animals that have evolved and learned that, oh yes, this is possible for things to change or for things to be different. And then during a horrible rainstorm, there was enough of a flood where the characters that wanted to escape the pond were able to escape, but they all died in a waterfall, but they were able to successfully fertilize, and the new offspring was able to go into this new lake that they had discovered. So that was the story there. Being my first play that I ever directed, it was a little rough. So I feel like I've learned a lot. And that's one of the other reasons why I wanted to do this as a one-man show, because I felt like I could just see what this process is like of how do I fill up 60 minutes of space with just myself and other characters that I've created but will do the voicings for, but yet still telling a story and having the focus be on the music. So having been through it once, I feel like I'm ready. And because I've tried to make this as simple as possible with as few props as possible, I've had to cut 30 minutes out. So really, this is a 90-minute story. Oh, wow. But I've tried not to cut out too many songs. So I've cut out a lot of the extra storyline that I think is kind of funny, but I wanted the focus to be on the music. So I'm hoping that by the time I perform all of these 5 shows, I will also have another marketing postcard for another performance set sometime in July or August where I will be able to perform the full 90 minutes.
That's really great. It's nice that you have that much material and could build it into a full 90-minute show. That's awesome.
Well, I don't know how good all that 90 minutes is. So far, I think I have the best 60 minutes. So I wanted to put on the best, most kick-ass show I could possibly do for the Fringe audience. Because I know I'm up against other theater troupes that are awesome. And just in looking at the other people's marketing, you could kind of tell that I'm doing it on my own. Other people have some professionals behind them, and they're possibly touring as part of like a national tour. Some of them are traveling from out of the state.
Well, that's the interesting thing about Fringe is it's such a just eclectic mix of stuff.
I'm excited to see what everyone else has to do because they look
you've got
like
new people and you've got super professional people, and they're all kind of thrown in together.
There's even troops coming from other countries.
Wonderful.
We have some Italian troops and Scottish and I think a Japanese troop this year.
You're right. Yeah, I can't remember the name of that one, but it looks like it's going to be really, really good.
Yeah.
There's a Scottish troop coming in?
I think so.
Oh, I want to see that.
Just because you like the Scottish accent? You like the brogue?
Yeah.
Don't fall in love with any leading ladies, David.
I like the ladies too.
Nice. We'll save that for a different podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Steve, where can people find out about your show? What are the dates of your show? And where can they come see it?
Well, I have the dates. It's the very first one is Friday, June 23rd at 2:30 in the afternoon. And you can go to Skaliticians.com to learn about the show, all of the different songs that we have. There's a video posted up there of the song, The Politics of Ska. But you can also go to the San Diego Fringe website. I think it's sdfringe.org/tickets.
Yep.
And you can purchase your tickets there.
So Skaliticians.com?
Yes.
And can people figure out when you're playing and stuff like beyond Fringe?
Do you have open mics and things like that?
I don't have anything scheduled other than the Fringe show.
Okay.
So for now, what I'm doing is I'm focusing on these 5 shows, and I'm hoping that people come to at least one of them.
Okay. But if and when, they would be able to find that on your website?
If and when, definitely.
All right. Cool.
Definitely. And do I have time to read an ad from my sponsor?
Yeah, of
Absolutely.
Because I was forced to take this sponsorship deal from a pharmaceutical company, I have to read this ad. I'm legally, contractually obligated. It is for a medicine called Breathaxin. It is the most prescribed pill for easy breathing. Do you breathe too much? Maybe you don't breathe enough. Either way, you need Breathaxin, the most prescribed pill for easy breathing. People who take Breathaxin are able to breathe easy. Breathaxin should only be used by people who like to breathe. You should stop taking Breathaxin if you suddenly can't breathe. Side effects include fungal growth in your lungs, increased chance of fatality, bleeding of the eyes, swelling of the face, torn trachea, and irritable rectum. People who take Breathaxin have a significant chance of death or may be exposed to an increased chance of dying. If your bones are breaking and your blood is boiling, you may be having an adverse reaction. If you notice these symptoms, stop taking Breathaxin and see your doctor today.
Very nice. Very nice. Yay.
That's hilarious.
That was quite funny.
You want to play us out? You want to play something?
Sure. Let me think about what I could do here. How about this one? I'll play Sliding Glass Door if I can find it, or maybe I could just memorize the words. I think I got it. Okay, so this is called Sliding Glass Door, and I wrote this as a poem when I was in college, and I wrote the music sometime last year. Safe and secure with 5 of his friends, feeling like his life will never end. Happy with friends and not a lot more, he's living life behind the sliding glass door. Behind the sliding glass door. He can look out and others look in. All he sees is a world of torture and sin. His pain and suffering is known worldwide. He's happy to live life on the inside. Life on the inside. One stormy night his destiny comes. Into the liquor store stumbles a bum. From a hard day at life on the street, begging for folks who throw cash at his feet. The story's full of simple pleasures. Bum treats them as valuable treasures. Contemplates his purchase a while. Sees the 6-pack and he cracks a smile. He views the beer as a tasty feast that'll turn his shyness into a beast. Sorrows the alcohol will mend. With the frightened 6 cans, they know this is the end. This is the end. This is the end. Ah, music. This is the end. in a flash. Then used to collect the bum cigarette ash. The second is guzzled almost as fast. The third is, you guessed it, well that didn't last. The fourth had its liquid spilled in the mud. Out spilled the beer just like the cold blood. The fifth it prayed to be emptied clean after the horror that it had just seen. Only the sixth one is standing tall, shaking and shivering and waiting to fall. His 5 other friends have been gone for an hour to make a 5-story beer can tower. This is the time he always has dreaded. Bum grows more and more lightheaded. With shaking hands, he grabs the last. He cannot shake the powerful grasp. Crushed and broken, no contents inside. Lost all its liquid and lost all its pride. Life of a beer can is short and sweet. Drink the swill down and then crush with your feet. This is the tale for anyone who knows the way that this wicked and sad story goes. Remember the way that the beer cans felt, in the unlucky way their cards were dealt. So think of the story and think of yourself. Don't put its meaning up on the top shelf. They are not alone, there are many more who live their lives behind the sliding glass door. This is the end.
Hello there, citizens. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the floaty that will not flush no matter how many times you try in the toilet bowl of crime. I am Darkwing Duck, telling you please, talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. Whatever the heck that means. After all, you are watching Intellectual Podcast with your ears.